sprints, about 100-metre sprints back and forth on the day before the game, and I was thinking, I've never seen you do this before in my life.
Passion that Tamil Nadu cricket has. What?
Yeah, I think lots of different emotions, really. MS is probably an interesting one because he is someone that is very calculating out in the middle. I remember having conversations with him in the middle.
I'm sitting in the middle of Michael Hussey, and to the other side of me here is Murali.
Well, probably the technique's probably not much. It's probably more what's going on up here. I'm 48.
Cock. Vibe around it's different, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
Sort of trying to work out what the product is. You want a little clap in there or what? Well, g'day there. We're on the 14-year anniversary anyway of Michael Hussey. Welcome, mate. Matty Hayden. Just reminiscing really, Huss, about what the journey's been over the last 15 years. We saw Baz McCullum get 158, which was stunning. What is your memories of that innings first?
Well, I just remember, I think we were all a bit unknown, like what's this IPL going to be like, and grabbing people from all over the world and putting us into an Indian dressing room was pretty amazing in itself to start with, and sort of just trying to get to know each other. My experience of walking into the dressing room first time was like, how cool is this?
Yeah.
You know, meeting MS Dhoni and guys from all around the world, Albie Morkel from South Africa. We had New Zealanders, we had, guys from everywhere, and just chucked us all in there. I felt like that we had a great vibe right from the word go. But then when McCullum played that knock in the first game of the IPL, 150 odd in Bangalore, I just thought, wow, this is going to explode, this tournament. And I guess it sort of inspired us a little bit, really.
Yeah,
I was thinking, wow, let's see where this can go. I don't know, what are your memories of the start?
Well, I mean, you're a really nice bloke, Huss. I, on the other hand, are flat out evil. So my memories were a little nervous, to be perfectly honest, because, I mean, a lot of the guys that, like, for example, Parthiv Patel, and we'll get to this, as we go through that famous match that you scored your introductory 100 and the second 100 of the IPL as well after Baz. But Parthiv and I can remember walking off of the Gabba. He was 12th man. And I'd just been dismissed, and all of a sudden he's laughing in my face because I've been dismissed against India. And I'm thinking, who is this bloke? He looks like he's a kindergarten student. And he's suddenly like laughing at me. So I give him the biggest spray of his life inside the change rooms. I'm at him. And now all of a sudden, he's in the same change area as what we are, and I'm having to like confront all of my past demons.
It's funny you say that. I walked in behind you. The first time we came into the dressing room at the Chepauk for our first training session, I walked in right behind you, and I could almost see these Indians just cowering into the corner. Here comes this big bad Matthew Hayden, this big ogre, and they were like, "G'day boys, Matt Hayden," and like the surprise on their face, they were like, "Oh, he's actually a nice guy."
Fooled them, didn't I, Huss?
So that was one of my first memories. It was quite funny.
But I suppose on a more serious note, it was how, because T20 cricket really was just at its infancy, so none of us really knew a great deal of how we were going to play it. And I suppose even just coming from that cultural point of view, how are we going to integrate? Because bear in mind as well, 2008, that was the Monkey Gate incident. So there was huge tension between India and Australia. And of course, we're all at the forefront of that. So it was really, I had genuine concerns about how we were going to get on. And, it's funny you say that, as we were walking in the dressing room, I immediately had all of those dispersions of what I had preconceived to be, is it going to work, just vanish. And I think that sort of welcoming effect of Chennai, the welcoming effect of MS and the role that he actually played as well, was something that I just, I'll never forget. Because suddenly we'd arrived, we're in a similar colour to what we used to, but now we're playing for Chennai. And that was remarkable,
Yeah. I remember the day before the game, we had a great preparation leading in. And I remember thinking, what are you doing, Haydos? You're obviously taking this really seriously. You were doing about sprints, about 100-metre sprints back and forth on the day before the game. And I was thinking, I've never seen you do this before in my life. What are you doing? So I thought, well, Haydos is obviously pretty switched on here. He wants to hit the ground running, so to speak. But I remember the conditions were just so good in Mohali, like far out. It was obviously the best batting pitch in the world, just about, and the outfield was like glass. So Binger was playing for them,
Yeah.
and he bowled pretty quick.
Yeah.
But it was just you just had to touch it, and it almost raced away for 4. I think you and Party have got us off to a bit of a hot start.
Yeah, 20 odd each, I think we might have got, in that match.
And so I think that just sort of calmed the nerves of everyone in the dressing room or the dugout a little bit. We sort of, okay, we're away. We can just sort of relax. And then I think maybe Party might have got out, and then I came to the crease with you. And I don't know. I don't
Do you
think we
remember
really.
conversations
I don't remember
specifically?
talking much. It's just
A long time ago. It's 14 years. It's a lot of water under the bridge.
I think we just sort of thought, oh well, we don't know too much about T20. Let's just have a crack. Let's just have a go and we'll see what happens.
I don't think we had targets, right? Like you get to these grounds and you know, like say Brabham, you know that the average score first sitting is 192.
Yeah.
And that's an enormous and daunting top order challenge, really.
Yeah. And
I don't know if you remember this conversation as well. Just walking back as we're trying to sort of formalise the fact that we don't have a clue about T20 cricket. Remember when John Buchanan came in our dressing room and he said the new 300 is 400?
Yeah.
And our reaction to that was just, kidding, aren't you? That's like proper 10 and over from the start, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
And Gilly and I actually turned to each other and said, well, that's you or me, bud. Like, so, you know, we didn't have an idea, is the point, about what was a good total, what wasn't. Yeah. And I think that reflected in our overall performances. Everyone's, not just ours. Like we'd have 170 one day, we'd have 120 the next, and so forth. There was no real consistency. Yeah. Is that something you've noticed has changed?
Yeah, I think we were just trying to figure it out. You know, we weren't sure what good scores were, or I think how to play, when to attack, when to maybe just not. I don't know, it was different then, because it was like we had a lot of gun test players that were coming in and then trying to adapt to T20 cricket. Whereas I feel like today we've got the gun T20 players and they've practiced T20 sort of style. That's 360 degrees, whereas we were still trying to play proper cricket shots, really, and then trying to add a little bit of flair to it. And
do you remember your strike rate on that day? You scored 116, right?
Yeah.
Would it have been mid 130s, 140 maybe?
I don't know. We'd have to check the scorecard.
Well, we're not that technically advanced here, Huss. You might have it on your phone.
I did have it up earlier. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember thinking this is a beautiful batting pitch and getting full value for shots. And I just remember thinking we've got so much batting to come. We've got Dhoni, we've got Rayner, we've got Badranath, we've got Jacob Oram. And I was thinking, well, I've got a bit of a license here. I'm just going to go for it, you know. And it just happened to be one of those days where everything just came off. The moons aligned almost, you know. Like the batting conditions were perfect. It's just, I don't know, complete freedom just to sort of go for it.
14 years, it's a long time. What's changed? What's the shift in the thinking? Or what stayed the same, maybe, is another way to look at it.
Well, from a cultural perspective, I'm not sure a lot has changed from that very first season, really. A lot of the key figures are still, you know, in and around the team now. So obviously MS has been there right from the start, and obviously a pivotal key member of that. And he's the one that has set a lot of the culture with the way he's gone about it. He's so calm, he's composed, he's not reactive. You know, if things are going well or they're going poorly, he's a very consistent sort of human, and that's been really helpful. Stephen Fleming, although he wasn't coached that first year, he was a player.
Yeah, well, if you remember, I think our tour got disrupted because we had a West Indies tour.
Correct, yeah.
So I think we played the first four
games.
or five?
Four games we played, then we had to go to the West Indies.
Yeah.
Kepler Vessels was the coach, but then Flem, we were sort of at the top of the order, I guess, and then Flem came in after we left. But he's been obviously there throughout the whole journey as well, so his influence is still strong today. Kasi, Mr. Srinivasan, you know, they're all still heavily involved now. So
well, everyone.
Yeah,
Greg's there.
Yeah, Kingy, Tommy Simsek, the physio. You know, so it's been
so
amazing.
On. You could go right down, you know, through baggage and the whole works, right?
Yeah, there's so many guys that are still.
Has that been key? If there was one element, do you think that's?
I think so. Yeah, and it's amazing. Even talking to Josh Hazlewood, who was with us for a couple of seasons before, we had a rough season over in the UAE a couple of years ago, and he was just amazed that the following year we came back and nothing had changed. We hadn't turned the team over, we hadn't turned management over, coaches weren't turned over, we kept the same formula and went on to win the title. And he was just amazed. Like in franchise cricket, you don't see that loyalty and that love for each other. You know, through good times and bad, they just back you and they stick with you.
What does Chennai mean to you? When you think of that, that strong foundation around the old Madras Cricket Club and just the passion that Tamil Nadu cricket has, what?
Yeah, I think lots of different emotions, really. It's hard to actually put your finger on it. There's so many different things. I think a love for cricket is one thing, whether it's the people involved in the organisation, but also the fans. And then I have a deep love for cricket as well. So I think that's a nice connection there as well. And I feel like I've learnt so much from the Chennai experience, like about what it takes to bring together a group of people from all around the world into an environment and make it work. That I guess the morals and values that the Chennai Super Kings organisation possess, I guess that have helped me grow as a person more than anything, and so I feel like this has been a really nice fit from the start, and I think once they identify good people, I guess, then that they like to sort of stick with them forever. Yeah,
good operators. It's ironic in many ways that the major partner of Chennai Super Kings is cement. Because when you think about cement, you think about scaffolding, you think about, all of those things that build an empire as such. And I think from my point of view, the empire of the Yellow Love and that Yellow Army, as the fan base will say, is built around not an ivory tower, but one that goes right through. And when you think of even the sub-competitions like Tamil Nadu Premier League and just cricket in Tamil Nadu alone, you just think, wow, this is something that is globally recognisable, but it's also communally significant. Households are stopping. Win, lose, and watching Chennai. How it is that you fell in love with T20 cricket in general, or have you? I mean, Punter and I used to have this argument a lot, as you know, around T20 cricket and its relevance, because he would say, mate, it's a terrific game if you bat 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're really scrounging for an opportunity. But what's your view on it as a general rule amongst the layers of cricket?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love Test cricket. That was my major love, because it was such a test on all different levels. Your skill, your technique, your fitness, your mental strength. It just tested you on so many different levels. And that's where I felt like you got the most respect from your peers, because everyone knows how hard Test cricket is. So that's where you gain respect around the world. T20 cricket, initially I thought, wow, this is there's definitely a place for it. And I think in a way, especially in a place like Australia, where we had so many competing sports. So for kids to introduce the game to new people, get girls and families involved in cricket, I thought it was fantastic. But I sort of thought it was a bit hit and giggle, but just fun. Just get lots of kids falling in love with cricket, and then we can introduce them to the other formats of the game. That was my initial perspective. And
do you reckon that's worked?
Yeah.
Do you reckon the flow of, like, you think of names off the top of my head, like Davey Warner, for example, came from a base of T20 cricket, rose to greatness in Test cricket, but has that flow across the board worked, do you think?
I think the numbers of kids playing cricket have certainly grown over the years of T20 cricket being played. But I guess even at the IPL, when we first started, there's a lot of the glitz and the glamour and Bollywood sort of flavour in there as well. The cricket was one part, but it was also the after parties and the Bollywood sort of flavour as well. So I think for the first year, maybe 2 years, it was a bit about cricket and a bit about the fame and fortune of that sort of side of things. But then very quickly, I think coaches, players, organisations sort of started to think, hang on a sec, this is getting more serious, And so then it was a big shift, more focus on the cricket side of things and how can we improve T20 cricket. And man, the product that they're putting out now, like just almost every IPL game seems to go down to the wire now. It's amazing. Like and you and Ricky arguing about if you're in the top 3, then great, you've got the best chance to bat. But mate, there's some really important players coming in through the middle order now that can come in and have maximum impact as well. So I think it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, when you look at the money ball of the top, say 7 players, but even top 5 batters, they're greats of all formats of the game, right? Like I would put MS Dhoni in that category. And there's a theory, I don't know if you subscribe to this, but if you combine the aggregate with the strike rate, that's somewhere
Average.
Average, sorry, and the strike rate.
Yeah.
You're somewhere near the sort of mark around how you rate a player.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that's changed in the last few.
So what's the new dashboard look like?
Back when I was playing, I used to work on a figure for a batsman about 160. If you could add the average and the strike rate together, about 160, you were seen as you'd be in the top echelon of player.
And what were you?
I don't know.
Oh, Huss, come on.
I'm not a stats man. I'm serious, I'm not. But I think that figure now has changed.
You would have been there, I would say. At a rough guess, you would average almost 40 with a strike rate of 130, I'd reckon.
Maybe, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
But what I like about that is it does cater for everyone in the batting order. So if you're batting in the top order, you've got a chance of having a higher average. Possibly your strike rate might be a little bit lower. Whereas if you're batting down towards the back end, your average, because you're going to throw it away every day, your average is probably going to be lower, but you've got an opportunity probably to have a higher strike rate. So I don't mind that rating system because it does cater for everyone. But I feel as though that number of 160, I feel like that's growing in the modern game. Much like, say, when 50 over cricket started, where 200 was a good score.
Yeah.
Now, like 400, seems to be a more common score. So I feel as though, that marker is sort of probably more 180 now.
Yeah, well, you have a look at, like I said, in the top five, you've got Chris Gale, I reckon, would be certainly up there.
Yep.
A.B. de Villiers, Virat Kohli on his numbers, Davey Warner, most certainly.
Yeah. Well, MS, you throw
MS is there for sure. And then you've got Shikhar Dhawan.
Rohit must be up there.
Chinnathala.
Yeah. Suresh Raina, of course.
Yeah, and then Rohit. I would say that's probably top 7. And you look at, I reckon, the very best of that category is Chris Gale. I mean, this is a bloke that scored 2 Test 300s. He is off the charts when it comes to his average and aggregate in one-day cricket. And then when it comes to T20 cricket, he's owned the IPL.
Yeah.
So he's like 180 and averaging 40.
Yeah, right. And you've got to remember that he was ahead of his time, really, in a lot of ways.
And it was funny our perception, right? Because Chris sort of fitted the typical West Indian mould. Had all the bling and, everything was just it was a show.
Yeah.
But, I think our perception, certainly my perception, changed of Chris as a cricketer in the T20 cricket because he just continued to get the job done.
Yeah.
And went big. Yeah. Most sixes, most hundreds.
But I'll be interested to know, so your respect for Chris Gale, is it based on the way he's played over all 3 formats of the game? Because for me, my respect for him is he played over 100 Test matches.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm like, wow. I don't think many people would actually remember that.
No.
Yes, he was an unbelievable T20 player, but he played over 100 Test matches, which is unbelievable.
Look, I think as soon as you've got grey curtains, you tend to, it's very hard for leopards to change their spot. Yeah. I would imagine if, I rate Test cricket. Yeah. And those that compete at the highest level in Test cricket still, to me, they earn their money, so to speak, because it's just the hardest game. But still, when you look at the modern game, you look at a guy like Shimron Hetmeyer, for example, in this tournament. He's really a renowned finisher now. He's done it now for, this tournament, but I would imagine that he'll start to build that profile. And you think back to also some of the greats like a Kyron Pollard. May not be a Test cricketer, but certainly is now a renowned finisher as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you'll have 3 or 4 other names there. MSD is obviously in that category as well.
And it'll be interesting to ask the youngsters. Like, obviously, we grew up loving Test cricket, but now with T20 cricket so good, it'd be interesting to ask the youngsters growing up now, saying, what do you want to do? Is it to play T20 for the Chennai Super Kings or play Test cricket for India?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'd change. There'd be a lot, but
does that worry you? I mean, I know that you just love cricket so much. I'll tell you, before you answer that question, I've got a story about why I know that you're actually not Mr. Cricket.
Yeah. I've been trying to get rid of that tag for ages.
Murali is by far Mr. Cricket in my mind. So we're on a flight, goodness knows where, somewhere across Africa, and I'm sitting in the middle of Michael Hussey, and to the other side of me here is Murali. So, of course, these two go, it's like crossfire, and I'm just getting bombarded with cricket. All I want to be talking about surfing and food and family. So finally I give it a nod off to sleep. A bit of turbulence or something wakes me, and I look over at you, You've gone to sleep. Merrily is still talking cricket to thin air. And I thought, man, seriously, that takes the title for mine, don't it?
Oh, mate, he should definitely be Mr. Cricket, Murali. He knows everything. I tell you what, but some of the talk about that first year. I used to love the net sessions. Murali versus MS Dhoni at the Chepauk training sessions. Mate, Murali's eyes were like this wide, coming in, fizzing these balls down, and MS would be hitting them out of the stadium. He'd get him out probably 10 or 15 times as well with balls straight up. But MS would hit some of the biggest sixes, and it was hilarious watching these two legends just go at it. Meanwhile, I'm at the other end, just like working the ball into the gaps.
Did he ever surprise you, as great as what he was, how intimidated he was by Australia, and in particular you as well?
I was blown away by, like even say we're playing an IPL game, we've got him 8 down, he's spinning the ball square, and he still wanted all the fielders back. And I was thinking, really, it's number 10. You don't need mid-off, bring mid-off up, bring mid-on up. No, keep him back. So it's amazing how, for someone so great and so good, that he used to like to try and, he was quite protective, I guess.
I asked him on air the other night, because we get access to you boys every now and again, which is just, makes our night, because we can bring back all the demons of the past. But I asked him, after, I can't remember who it was played a shot, but I said, mate, are you going to go back in there like you did in the old days and just tell him what a poor shot that was? Oh, no.
No.
He was ruthless, wasn't he? I remember him coming up to Freddie Flintock and he just says, oh, bad shot, no? I thought Freddie was just going to whoop him.
He was a legend, really. I love playing with him.
Is there a line or what's the hardest role from a great player to now a great coach? What's the sort of line in the sand in terms of relationships, how you deliver messages, and some of the learnings around that?
It's definitely different now. This generation of player are different. You can't be as brutal. I think the communication side of things is really important. And we certainly need help. We're different cultures coming from all around the world, so how we deliver something to an Australian might have to be very different to an Indian or even a Englishman or South African or something like that. So you have to be very careful and think before you speak almost, and think about how you're going to speak. So probably the communication and the relationship side of things are more important. And I guess what I've mainly learned as a coach is just the way I did it is not necessarily going to be suitable for you. They're all different players, so trying to almost ask them, how do they want to be coached, and what do you need to get your best, and then if we can help with little bits and pieces along the way. It's their game at the end of the day. We can't go and bat for them in the middle, but they've got to try and figure it out along the way.
Look, it's really interesting from a broadcast sense, where you're kind of you're like a lounge chair coach in many ways, because you're trying to do the expert analysis on certain key elements. So you might look at someone like Joss Butler, for example, who is on fire in this tournament. And yet 3 months ago, he couldn't score a run. He was an absolute shot duck.
Yeah.
So how do the batting techniques shift between the formats?
Well, probably the technique's probably not much. It's probably more what's going on up here.
You reckon it's just that?
Yeah, I do. I do actually, yeah. I find that the guys that have the most consistent, stable, basic game generally can chop and change between the different formats quite comfortably.
Well, DK's maybe a good example of that.
Yep.
He's someone that's just dominating in this IPL.
Yep.
But he's got a good, stable base, and he's got a terrific cricket brain, and he's strategically working out what his areas are. Yeah.
And I think that's part of the battle as a coach. You don't want them thinking too much about technique in tournament. You want them to thinking about, how am I winning the game from here? Where are my scoring options here? Tactical stuff.
But isn't that all thinking? Just as an example of that last night, right?
Well, thinking Nitish what's coming at you rather than what's happening at your end, I guess. Yeah.
Like Nitish Rana last night, I think they needed 70 off 50 odd balls. Already scored 12 in the over, goes for 18 in the over and gets out, and then exposes the middle order. As a coach, what's the conversations there? How do you bridge that gap between the knowledge, the match play that you that you just made your point on, and then the end result and outcome.
It might come down to the personality of the coach. So Brendan McCullum, knowing him, he would have been more than happy with that. Keep going,
right.
take him down, make it a 25, 30 run over, take him down. Maybe another coach might be a bit more conservative and say, well, look, you've already got more than we needed.
You're the coach. What is that situation?
I'd probably be asking questions and say, okay, what were you thinking? If the thinking is sound, if he's saying, look,
what if you disagree with the thinking? Like, in other words, last night, Taha was on fire. He had one over left. And that was the outcome in that.
Well, again, he's the guy that's got to make the decision out in the middle. So it'd be asking questions along the lines of, what are you thinking? If it's a bowler you think you can definitely take down, then maybe just keep going for it. But from a team perspective, if we get through this over, then Taha, we can see him out, and maybe that's part of the learning. For him, what would you do any different next time? And he might not, but he might go back to his room and just sort of think about, maybe I could have. It's not telling them. It's basically putting things in their mind where they can go away and think about it and mull over it, and hopefully maybe make a better decision next time.
Yeah, I suppose that's the beauty of T20 cricket. I know personally, in the seasons that I played, if I was thinking about the game, I was in trouble. Like, it was very much an instinct game.
You mean out in the middle while you're batting? So getting ahead of yourself?
Just thinking too much about the game. Like, to have a strike rate of 140, you've really only got one thought, and that's sixes and fours. What's an afterthought, though? And when I look back historically on some of the games that we played, I think we were actually able to convert some old school thinking, in other words, test match type thinking, into just getting the result. Like, there was a few games that I noticed where we chased down 130, but we'd get them 3 down and we'd have strike rates of 100 to just get the job done. See, I don't see that happening now. I reckon that a team with net run rates, and I'm not judging, and I'm just thinking that right now, I reckon probably teams are going, we need to get this in 7 overs. MS is probably an interesting one because he is someone that is very calculating out in the middle. I remember having conversations with him in the middle, and I'd be starting to panic a bit because the run rate's going up, and I've got to hit, and he's like, just don't worry, they've still got to bowl this guy. He won't know where to bowl to you. You've still got this guy to come. I can take this guy, and he was calculating it all the way to the end, and saying how many times he won the game in the last over, but he'd had it all mapped out. So everyone's a bit different about how they like to go about it. Like McCullum's, he's at the other end of the spectrum. He's just trying to hit every ball out of the park. And Gilly, I think, was exactly the same as well.
Definitely. So that's the great thing. There's not a right way to do it, and there's different ways that are going to suit different people.
Have you got, this is not a loaded question, it's just a question of interest. Have you got someone that you think they're an amazing T20 cricketer? Like, is there a favourite? Is there a Mr. Cricket favourite?
AB de Villiers is probably my favourite.
Yeah.
Because the reason why, and MS is up there as well, because what they could do in the middle order, not many people around the whole world can do. Like, there's great players that bat at the top of the order, but there's quite a few that can do that role and do it amazingly well. There's not too many people can do what AB de Villiers did, coming in with 20 balls to go and smacking 70. He was unbelievable, and even MS, just the way he could calculate it, and it was just not many people around the world, maybe in the history of T20 cricket, can do what those two can do. So,
couple of last questions. Have you got a favourite memory? Is there something that sticks out in your mind as just being next level for CSK?
I think not one particular, but we see these championship winning things on the wall, the photos. I think probably that one, 2018. Yeah. We've been out of the competition for 2 years. We came back, and I remember MS gave a speech right at the start of the season, and he actually started tearing, having tears coming out of his eyes. And I remember thinking, whoa, something special's happening here. And that was a special season. I mean, every season is special for CSK, but there was something, I know, it gives you goosebumps just thinking about what happened that year. It just was almost like it was meant to be. And coming back after being 2 years out, MS played unbelievably well throughout the season. It was just a special time. Personally, what has the IPL meant for you? I think relationships with Indians, but with people from all around the world. So I feel confident now that I could fly into India, make one phone call and just catch up with new friends. Like, you know, when you fly around Australia, it's great to see friends that you've played with and mates, but to have that spread to all corners of the earth now it's a pretty special thing.
Yeah, well, for me, you know, I'm not directly involved with the CSK team, but I've never left the family, and it always feels that way. Whether I'm broadcasting, I'm horribly biased, as everyone knows. And I think they've actually, despite the fact that they dressed me in purple last year for the final, I think that was actually a bit of a Mickey take.
Well, it's funny, your name still comes up quite a lot, you know, in this room.
Hopefully for good.
Yeah. Haydos this, Haydos that, you know.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Mr. Cricket is, you know, when you think about...
Mirrorly.
Yeah, Mirrorly. But when you think about, you know, very special players within the CSK franchise and now coach, I'm pretty sure that Chennai's got, you know, in great hands with Michael Hussey. So, mate, thanks, champion.
Good to catch up, Haydos.
Yeah.